Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate forum, which you should definitely all join. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Now, we're currently joined by 10th Man in the Google Plus Hangouts on Air server. How are you doing?
Wonderful. Good morning to all.
Good morning, good morning. Let's see if anybody's in Discord. Hello, if you can hear me in Discord. I haven't opened anybody's mics yet, so no, there's only one dude. Hello, Red. Hello, Nathan. Good to have you, Red. Very good to be here.
No, I'm here.
good to have you. So, do you know what I had done today, 10th Man? Before we get into Einstein and fourth dimensional realities. I had my
Paul,
go on.
Yeah, Paul posted a story in the scientific journal type, and they were trying to talk about Newtonian versus Einsteinian. And here's a direct quote. Einstein's discovery was based on a series of thought experiments. Thought experiments? I mean, think about that. Consider an astronaut floating in space, begging the question, away from any source of gravity, begging the question, and the same astronaut free falling in the planet's gravity. I mean, look at all the stuff that they're talking. It's all in the imagination.
Yeah, begging the question of planets. Missed that one.
Yeah. And then also another quote, Einstein developed this theory on the assumption that the laws of physics must appear the same to every observer. This is also true for planets, begging the question, revolving around the sun, begging the question.
Right. Heliocentric model.
Yeah. Everything's in their model. It's all begging the question. You're arguing within their boxing ring.
Yeah. I'm into the world of the fourth dimension so we can argue about how it works. Now I'm alright. I live in reality, thank you.
And then they go on and say, NASA now chimes in on this. Okay, that's what I said. And then here's the quote. Newton's view is not wrong. In fact, NASA still uses his infamous laws to predict the behavior of satellites in space, begging the question. His view remains extremely accurate for small bodies and low velocities, begging the question. I never knew it was infamous. I thought it was a discovery.
No, they just make it up. It's just completely made up.
Crazy.
Make up a fourth dimension and then say the bending of it causes a non-effect that you can think of as an effect. Because it doesn't happen, isn't needed, isn't in reality, and is only needed in a heliocentric world. So just take that shit, take it into the realms of thought experiments, create a medium that doesn't exist, and then have it do whatever you like.
Yeah.
Space-time, the fourth dimension.
Yep. Last quote I'll read. The important thing to remember is that gravity is neither a push nor a pull. What we interpret as a force or the acceleration due to gravity is actually the curvature of space-time. The path itself stoops downward.
Space-time's not real. Yeah, space-time's not real. So the curvature of what now? A fake medium that doesn't exist that you came up with in your head when you were doing your thought experiments. That's fascinating. Now do some maths. Shut up and calculate and show us how it works. Oh, what's that? It doesn't matter how it works because it's not real.
I had a buddy of mine send me a video of this young professor giving a 2-hour talk on bending of space-time, Newton, and this whole subject that we're talking about today. And so he sent it to me over the weekend. I said I'd watch it. So I started watching it yesterday. I couldn't even get through 10, 12 minutes of it, and I just stopped watching it. And I responded because the young man who's speaking on the heliocentric side was talking about bending space-time, Einstein, all this, begging the question stuff like we're talking now. And so I just sent him a short text and a video to watch how the whole thing is made up, and it's a mathematical equation that's now real. You can make up anything with math.
Absolutely. It's just the language to describe their fourth dimension that doesn't exist in this instance. So do you know what I did today?
What?
I had my radar detector fitted to my car. It's been hardwired.
So did you get a ping or a beep?
It's a bit more complicated than that. So it's got a SIM card in it, and what it does is it connects to wherever the control center is, and I think it's either 60 seconds or 180 seconds, whatever. Every couple of minutes, it updates the locations of all of the police cars. All of the updates give you regular changes to any speed cameras, speed limit changes. It's constantly updating, basically. So it's done by a SIM card to tell me where everything is.
This is highly sophisticated.
It is highly sophisticated, and what I decided, I haven't owned a car, right, in 13 years. And in that time, for the entire duration of that time that I've not owned a car, I've still paid the subscription to Road Angel for this service. So I put the unit into my wife's car, knowing that obviously that would be the only car I'd get access to, and kept paying the subscription even though it wasn't in my car. And I've got two of them. I've got two units. So one's still in my wife's car. Well, it's not. I've sent it back to have a minor software upgrade. But nevertheless, the one that was in her car is now in mine, and the one that she's going to have has been sent back because I've got two. But when I was a rep, it was that important to me. I had two of them. And they're about £300 each. And I bought two just so I didn't lose my license, because at one point I was right up there with the amount of points that I had. But I was driving, I was doing literally 50,000 miles a year. I was driving all over Europe. And the chances of getting speeding fines were pretty high when you're spending most of your life on the road. So for that reason, I kept it. But now I've got a car again, I don't want to get speeding tickets. So I'm more than happy to pay £5 a month to keep my license nice and clean and speed.
I hear you on the time on the road. When I was in sales, and every night I'd be doing appointments, afternoons, I'd be putting on the miles too, and I was getting all these tickets, and I'm saying, I'm just 5 miles over the speed limit. This is not they're going to take your license away. So I said, that's it. So I ended up buying a car with cruise control. I never got a ticket again.
It made no difference to me. So the last Repmobile I had radar guided cruise control, which is fabulous. It's a feature, probably the only, it had everything, it had loads of hot and cold running electric, everything. But the only feature I truly miss, is radar guided cruise control. It was fantastic. You stick it on, and then you do nothing. You basically sit where you are, and the car will increase speed and decrease speed depending on who joins in front of you. So if someone joins from an on-ramp in front of you, it'll slow the car right down. It'll even slam the brakes on, completely bring you to a complete stop. So that was glorious, because you didn't have to do anything. You didn't sit, you just sat with your feet flat on the mat, comfortable like a passenger would. Yeah, at the time there was no guided steering like there is today, but the cruise control itself was fantastic. I really, really missed that feature. But even then, I was still getting speeding tickets. It's the only thing I would get speeding tickets from, once I had all my telemetry, radar, whatever it is, was a police car from behind. So I had a laser detector on the front of the car, but not on the back. So I had one hardwired in, but there was only one socket, so I could only wire one in, and it was obviously most likely it's a policeman standing with a gun, or a camera car with a gun pointing at your number plate, and that's where I thought that would be the most logical to have it. But the only time I'd get speeding fines, or used to, was when there was an unmarked police car behind me, obviously having just passed it at 120 or whatever I'd be doing. That would be the only time I'd get fines. So I still ended up getting points from unmarked police cars, but nothing else. And we've got more cameras in this country than anywhere. There's loads of them. They're everywhere.
That's for sure.
But the amount of people that just get caught out, and they end up paying the £60 fine, getting points on their license, or having to do an educational course. And to me, it's just like £5 a month it's not a great deal of money to not have to go and do a course, to not have to pay more in insurance, to not have to pay a fine.
It's the same concept with DVR. When you pre-record what you want to watch on the telly, as you say there, and then just fast forward through the commercials. You have that technology.
Well, I don't know how you're drawing a comparison, but yeah, if you say so.
Well, my comparison is there's technology for everything, to skip through commercials and to make sure you don't hit the radars from the radar guns.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few other things that could be done. I was speaking to the electrician today who was fitting in the hardwired kit, and he was explaining that on his older Mercedes, he had parking sensors, and if you left them on when you were driving on the motorway, it would scramble the police scanner that was getting you for your speed. And then he said he'd been called over a couple of times, and they've said, look, you've got a jammer, and they're illegal, where is it? And he's like, I don't have a jammer. And he hadn't. He'd just got he'd got parking sensors that you could turn on whilst driving. I think back in the day, this is going back 15 years, it used to be garage openers. You know, you leave your garage opener on the home link thing, and if it was on permanently, it would scramble the police guns. But if you've got it fitted permanently to the car to open your garage door, it can't exactly be called illegal. But if you fit it purposefully just to jam their guns, it can.
Well, I remember when they first came out with it. It was not as sophisticated like today with SIM card. This is the first time I even heard of that. But back in the day, when they first started doing the radars, they were selling jammers and everything. And there was a big controversy about were they legal, were they not legal, and went to court. And there's all kinds of brands and makes and models. And then, now it's the way you describe it. I like it this way. It's so sophisticated, so simple.
Well, back when it was jammers, the problem with them was you had detectors and jammers, and you had to have normally two units, one that detected a camera and one that could potentially jam it. And the one that detected cameras was for things like the Gatso cameras. In other words, not one with a gun it's a permanent fixture, but it would just go off and beep. The problem was that they would go off with like doors, those sliding doors that have got a sensor on them. If you were close enough to a car park that had the door in it, your machine would go off, and they'd be beeping all the time with false alerts. So as far as I'm concerned, that was definitely not an option. What I wanted was being specifically told where it is and what it is and how long it's going to be before you're on top of it. And that's what mine does. Hey, Sleeping Warrior.
Hey.
Excellent with you and George yesterday. I love the way you led him. You're miles more tolerant and patient than I am.
Say that again.
You're much more tolerant and patient than I am. So the way you led George was excellent. I thought it was very good.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, your car, your Lexus that you've bought recently, that you've spent some money getting it tidied up?
Yeah, I've got one more thing to do and then I'm finished.
Yeah, it's not a new car though, is it, right?
Far from it. It's about it's 2006 55 plate.
But if you think of it as a new car, does that make it a new car?
No. Entropy has still taken hold, unfortunately.
They are desperate to keep that force.
Yeah. Well, we were just talking about it before you joined, actually. Yeah, if I create a place like Narnia and then make rules and regulations about how it works, and then claim that one of the parameters for those rules and regulations bends, and that gives rise to a force, does that mean that there's a force when I've made up the place that it's happening in?
Only in that construct, yes.
Right, so in other words, I can say there's an Narnia force if I choose to, and they can say there's a space-time bending if they choose to, but space-time isn't real, it's just a concept, it's just an idea, a thought experiment, nonsense. If you will.
Yeah, it's nonsense. It's got to the point where I realised that what was the most important thing for me, the most interesting aspect. George left just at the crescendo of my points. It was literally the moment of climax. Come on, George, don't leave now. But to be fair, he did run out of time and he did say he was getting there. So, it is what it is. But what I found was the most interesting part was when that dickhead, I don't know who he is, he asked me, why is it harder to walk up a mountain than down a mountain? And the answer, of course, is your own mass, your own weight. And that's described in physics as inertia. And he took issue with it. So I knew Rumpus would support me if I asked him point blank, Rumpus, can you tell me, am I right? And rather than support me because I was right, he claimed the force of gravity. And I'm like, so Rumpus is a dishonest sack of shit then? That answer is inertia.
If he's disclaiming that it's not a force and then explaining how it is considered a force when you bend a conceptual medium called space-time, then he's essentially conceding and understands implicitly that it's not a force. But then when asked a question like that, he immediately will revert to Newtonian principles and assert it as a force. Well, just a double-speaking asshole. They all are.
That's exactly what happened. That's why I left, ultimately. People say I rage quit. Well, I left because I'd had enough anyway. I'd done my bit. I was fucking roasting, and I'd been working most of the afternoon. I left. You know, when I left you, I went and I didn't finish work until catching up with that hangout with Jose. I was working all that time. I came in, kicked my shoes off, got myself a drink, and jumped straight into it. No thought, no prep, just straight in. And by the time I'd finished with them two morons, when Rumpus basically said, rather than saying it was inertia, the guy was wrong to challenge it, he actually said the force of gravity. I just realized that there's no point in having any further conversation with in this, like, today now, because they're just going to deny.
It's the same behavior when it comes to Coriolis. When it's convenient, there's two reference frames, and when it's not, or it's one reference frame. Just like gravity, when it's convenient, they use it. When it's not, they don't use it.
Yeah, morons.
La La Land. I like your slides, though. I like your, 4 minutes or so preamble that you gave them to look at. That was nice.
Yeah, that's good. Excuse me, one sec.
We have any ballers in Discord, Nathan?
Yeah, that 4-minute preamble acted like an advanced disclosure because he wanted one. And obviously that's a really good reflection because he knows that I am going to go with supporting evidence. I'm not just going to go with a view or an opinion. I am going to go with something to support my assertion. And he wants to know the answers, my points, before I give them, which is respectable because the fact that he asks for it is a compliment to me because he knows that I will attack him based on stuff. So I'm more than happy to give advanced disclosure, full advanced disclosure. And there were no sneaky rabbits in the hat there. I'm all right with that.
Absolutely. I thought just you summarizing your disclosures on your channel, the debate was over already just from what you were showing.
Yeah, I know. That's the beauty of it. I love it. But they have to obfuscate that. It's not a force point. All day, they'll obfuscate it. And as long as we're talking about it and arguing about it, it's as though it becomes real by arguing about it. That's the point that's being lost. The bigger picture is the more we talk about gravity, the more it becomes a real thing.
Paul posted a good article in Master B. I don't know if you saw it. I left a couple of...
Yes, I did see it.
Yeah, I left a few commentaries after reading it, but they're stuck. They are stuck between Newton and Einstein.
Well, they're stuck within a paradox. At the end of the day, mass doesn't attract mass. There's no evidence that mass attracts mass.
Well, this is what I'm saying. When they had only one pseudo-science, quote-unquote, explanation, Newton, it was, their back was against the wall when you were challenging him and all. But now they go to Einstein, which is a thought experiment, and Einstein throws Newton under the bus. So now, who are they going to cite when both of them were false to begin with, but now have two positions?
Yeah, but don't forget, though, Einstein does say in that article that he still supports Newton and that nothing should undo it. That for me is a deliberate contradiction. A deliberate contradiction.
Well, that's like a messy divorce, and then the people say we love each other. Give me a break.
Yeah, it's the professional. What's the word? The professional disclaimer that he might be wrong.
Well, it's not even that. It's just so that you can appease the other side. Why would they take an opposite position if they thought they were a chance they might be wrong. That's just a very clever way, lawyerly way of saying, I'm going to let you down nicely. How long was your debate with these guys?
Say again?
How long was your debate with George?
About 40 minutes, I think.
Okay. Are you going to post it on your channel too, or what?
Yeah, I might edit it while no borders come on and present their non-evidence.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean you'll edit it during the show while no one's coming in to defend their bull nonsense?
Yeah, I might edit a video instead.
At least it's related. It's not playing Command and Conquer.
I know. I'm feeling the withdrawal symptoms.
So I take it everything's working at your end now, Anthony.
Yeah, I'm back in order.
We were talking about you the other day in regards to coffee shop. So from what I understand, the coffee shop was only really around when I wasn't, correct?
Correct.
I am going to be taking a few days off here and there over the next couple of weeks, just because I need a break, and it's summer, and it's my kid's birthday and my birthday, and I might even go on a little holiday, go and see the family down south. So if it's good by you, if I let you know the dates, obviously you're under no obligation to do anything, but I just thought rather than there just being a gap and nobody knowing about it, if you know when, at least if you do decide to do something, you can do it with a pretty much ready-made audience. I'll let you know. Either way, like I say, no obligation to do anything.
Sorry, I was just reading something. I missed everything that you just said. When you go away on holiday, do what?
I'll let you know the dates, and then if you choose to do a coffee shop, that would be the appropriate time. You may not want to.
Right,
You're under no obligation. I'm just letting you know that I'll give you the times should I not be around for a day or two, or maybe 3 days if I'm away for a weekend, just over the next few weeks, just because it's summer and I need to go away and see the family and celebrate my kid's birthday, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, my intention will be to put out, a few placeholder, whatever, maybe repeats. I'll record a couple off air as well, so there's some new material going out at the regular times, but there'll still be a yearning for a live show, I don't doubt. "10 minutes and we'll go live, Mr. Tappy Keyboard."
Sorry.
Do we have guests in Discord? Any ballers?
There's a baller in there.
Hello, Earth-Shaped Investigator and the Meisty. Hello, both of you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, we hear you.
Just fine. Thanks, guys, for having me on.
That's a real pleasure.
It's convenient. It's usually about 9 in the evening, 9 at night where I am. So this is instead of watching TV or Netflix or something, I come on here. It's quite enjoyable. That's all. But I'm not a Glober, so I can't contribute much to the debate. But you guys cover a lot of very nice anyway.
Oh, are you excited about that, are you, Sausage? My daughter says that's great.
Hey, Nathan, I was watching a video and they had a segment from Matt Powerland saying If they were wrong after 500 years, would they tell you?
Say that again. If they're wrong after 500 years, what?
Matt Powerland said in the quote, if they were wrong after 500 years, would they tell you? And they gave that look that he gives.
Yeah, we already know the answer. No, they most certainly would not. No, they most certainly aren't. And maybe they will be forced to in future. I don't really get the appeal, though. Be honest, do you care what the elite say in this regard anymore? Because I certainly don't.
No, this isn't, I mean, you've seen The Matrix, I'm sure. I feel like we're in it. I feel like people don't know the reality of the world they live in. And when I come and tell them the 7 housekeeping questions one at a time, they think I'm crazy. And I'm saying, what?
I don't think anybody's crazy to think that you're asking questions.
Well, why do they think I'm crazy then?
I think because of the assertions that come after the question.
Yeah, but we don't even have to make them, and someone like Brenda will tell us that we're being religious.
I mean, I believe in the spherical Earth, but I don't think that you guys are being religious by simply asking questions. I think there's a lot of respect in asking lots of questions, and even like critical ones that question basic fundamental science. I think that's a very healthy thing to do.
Now, you believe in the spherical Earth, and I believe the Earth is flat. And I'm willing to state right now, live on this show, that if you can show me Earth-based Coriolis, I will believe the Earth is spinning. Can you?
A wise response. Yeah, I actually think that's one of their weakest arguments. I really do. Sorry, John, what did you say?
Comes out Thursday.
I just heard comes
Thank
up
you.
Thursday.
Comes out Thursday, man. No show on Thursday. Jeez, that's one of the days I look forward to.
There will be a show on Thursday, it just won't be live.
Yeah, that's right.
Is it one of the best shows, like along with Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday?
No, I look forward. I look forward to Thursday shows because it's 2 shows. I don't have to get up. You know, I could just relax, join the after show on the first show, and yeah, I like it. But no, gotta have birthdays.
It's my kid's 3. It's the first birthday. She'll actually understand what's going on.
All right, gotcha.
I was
Hey,
trying to
listen.
figure out what you were saying the other day, QE. I think it was yesterday when you said you were just barely getting up, and you're in the Midwest. I'm in the left coast, so I was already up and had my coffee, and you're just getting up. What's going on?
I don't want to hear it, man. You get up with the chickens. I don't. This is just, I was up early this morning. Just, you know, it's out of the blue, one of these things that I just woke up. So I'm good right now, but I don't want to hear your friggin' farmer blue jeans stuff. You wake up the chickens. I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah,
I'm training my rooster to crow QE now.
That's right. He should. Get in line. The love list is long. Get on the love train.
Now both
Hey.
you and Anthony are here. I would like to agree with you in one of your sentiments in, I believe it was the council, what's it called? Skype. And without dropping anybody or throwing anybody on the bus, Anthony was basically saying, yeah, this, that, and the other person called you out. And your response was to say, look, you should be paying more attention to the presentation rather than the chats scrolling on by and the arguments that go on in it. So I'm gonna completely back that sentiment. I noticed it didn't get a reply.
Oh yeah, that's just off the cuff. I was wanting some background noise last night while I was working on this presentation that we're going to do today, and I didn't tell you that yet. I just sent you the times, by the way. I know you love me for that.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah.
That's just what you want to hear 3 minutes before the live show starts. I'll go and have a look then, I guess.
Hey, what are friends for, dude? But I wanted some background noise, and because I was working and I was searching for the video, the presentation you did, or not the presentation, but the show yesterday, I couldn't find it. I'm saying, what the heck? Then I went on to Ranties was the only one playing, so I went on to that, and I was listening to Anthony give his presentation over there. And towards the end, you know, my name had to come up. I mean, these people just can't leave it alone, right? Oh, I had to give my 2 cents worth.
Okay, we might
You're
start
over the
a couple of minutes
target,
late.
Huey. You're over the target.
And it's no rush, Nathan. Whenever you want to do this, do you want to do this late in the show?
Just keep chatting. I'm doing it right now. Just lead me to it.
Yeah, I mean to actually do it. I know you're getting set up for it, but to actually do it.
Yeah, whenever. Like, I don't mind at what stage, as long as it gets done today. I just don't want to shut down the computer if I'm about to set it all up and then do it tomorrow, for instance.
Right. No, we'll do it today. Maybe the last 10 minutes of the show or something. Let me wake up a little bit.
Okay, well, I definitely need to prep it then. Just chat amongst yourselves.
Thanks, man. No pressure. Is this what he calls dead air?
Yes, it is, yeah.
I was just going to ask you what new projects you're working on, Huey.
Well, I was going to relax because I'm working on my car this week. Because Nathan's going to get his car and it's going to be done, you know, inside and out. So I wanted to get done with last week's presentation so I could relax this week. And then, like I said, I have some work on the car I got to do because it's go time between me and him. And I was sitting around, and of course, Anthony had to get on there and debate somebody. He just makes more work from me. But he did a really good job yesterday. I don't know. Is Anthony on here?
He's on mute.
He's doing a bit of editing.
He's doing a bit of edit. Yeah, he smashed George friggin' Tatanka. Just smashed him. I was sitting back there laughing, right, at this horse shit that George. I'll tell you what, he needs to be institutionalized. We're going to get into that here at the end of the show. You're not going to believe it.
Good. I'm looking forward to it. Love your presentation.
Oh yeah, just sitting back, making shit up, and the scary thing, that's what's really scary. Actually believing the shit you're saying. He does. A friggin' dog is smarter than you. You friggin' knucklehead. This is scary stuff, man. I can't believe people listen to him, man.
They're hanging on to as long as they can.
But he's one of their priests. If he was just a regular Joe knucklehead, I wouldn't pay any attention. But I was listening to this. I sat there and listened him drone on about just garbled nonsense, right? I couldn't believe he said that. I don't know, dude.
Well, you
I don't know
remember,
what the hell's
when
going on
Neil
out there.
deGrasse Tyson said some garbled nonsense. Now he's no longer relevant.
Not like this, man.
Well, I can't
I
wait
mean,
to
at
watch it
least
now.
I can at least tell that Neil doesn't believe the shit he says. But it's when you actually believe the shit you say, that's when it gets really scary.
Yeah, he's going to post it on his channel. I'll go watch it once it's there.
What's that?
That debate that you listened to. Anthony's
Oh,
gonna,
yeah, yesterday it was Anthony.
yeah, but that was on someone else's channel. I asked him if he was going to post it on his channel so I could go to his channel and watch it. He said he would.
Oh, got it. What else is
So what are
going
you
on
doing?
out here?
What are you doing to your car to one up Nathan on his car?
Right, I'm done. Too long. That wasn't as hard as I thought. Okay, right, we might just get away with starting a minute or two late, so
Sorry about that.
that's alright. No, I don't mind. You told me with just enough time. Right, sausage. Got to keep it down for my intro.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum, which you should definitely all join. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion right here, right now, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you are new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, if my child will allow me, I'm going to do a very quick shout out to all of my Patreons. So shout out to Alistair. Let's just move my mic and get a bit closer to the screen. Billy Highvolt, shout out to you. Burn fat till my stomach is as flat as the earth. Shout out to you, my friend. Chow Young Cat. Dank, shout out to you, my friend. David Wayne Foster, Edwin, big appreciation to both of you. Felix, Fireball X, a new Patreon. Thank you very much for joining my Patreon supporters. God Rockin', thank you very much. Jeronism, same to you, my friend. Kirsten, big thank you to you. Matt, Michael, Paige, Renee, Rune, Sam, Sweet Equity, Texas Mike, theflatearthchannel.com, and Tina Baker. So a massive shout out to all of my Patreons. So we are joined by quite a few people in both Discord and Google Hangouts on air. So I'll say a very big shout out to everybody who's in there. Give you some introductions. We've got Spurs Chemo, Sleeping Warrior, hello, Paul, Chocolate Sane, and 10th Man.
Good morning.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good
morning. Mic check.
Hold on, just before, don't be too keen. I'm going to introduce some people on Discord too. So before we get into it, we're also joined by, is it Dougie, Earth-Shaped Investigator, Flatulent Unicorn, oh god, these names are terrible. RC Moisty and Red. Very good to have you all in the Discord server.
Good to be here.
Hello.
All is good.
On you
Well,
go.
let's get the show rolling
Indeedy.
here. Any signs of Earth curvature?
Dougie,
No.
Nope.
any signs, mate? You're a globehead, you're always on mute, you never say a word.
I
What
like
are you
it.
Whoever that is, they sound really muffled. Whoever that is.
It's okay, he's saying, come on, you're a globehead. He's talking to somebody else in the Discord server, telling them to come off mute. I appreciate the sentiment, Flatulent Unicorn.
No
I have a
worries. It's just
sign,
that he's always
I
on
have a
here,
sign.
never says a word. He's a self-proclaimed globehead, and he just
No,
Uh,
I'm listening and I'm
So,
at work.
uh,
Is that all
when you
right?
get to the gravity question, 10th man,
you
I
can
may have
listen
a
on
sign
YouTube on the live stream on YouTube.
of
Then
gravity.
I'm
Not a
here,
flat
guys. Don't worry.
earth.
Okay, we'll give you a nod when we get to gravity, Spurs. So,
Yeah. Okay.
any scientific evidence of gravity? Oh, Spurs, by the way.
Yeah.
This is that
Yes.
question.
Yes. On a flat earth, we're told there is a pressure, an atmospheric pressure. In order for this pressure, you need a force. And I would say if there is atmospheric pressure, then there has to be gravity. So was that not proof or evidence to you of gravity being atmospheric pressure? If something is pressing on our bodies and on the earth, wouldn't it make sense there was a force?
Wrong.
10th man? Okay, real quick. Define force. Oh, well, I'm asking 10th man. He asked the question. So I'm saying to 10th man, wouldn't you say if there is a force?
Excuse me. Nathan asked the question. I didn't ask the question, but I'm willing.
Okay, great. Let's do it then.
Define what Paul said first, please.
Define what?
Force. Define force.
Force? Force would be an action, something required to give pressure.
A mass that is accelerating.
Okay, so 10th man, I've answered your question. Now, we agree that that's the definition. So now, is there a force? What is that force that is pressing the...
Wait. Did I say I agree with everything?
Okay, so what do you disagree with then? Let's get into it.
Well, no, just keep talking. But I haven't agreed to anything, but keep talking.
Well, I've finished, so back to you.
Well, what have you finished? Then state what you're trying to say.
You asked me for a definition of force.
Well, actually, Paul did, and I seconded it.
Okay, next.
Okay, next.
What's next, 10th man?
What's your example?
Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Oh, no.
No, you're skipping the gravity question there. You're skipping the gravity question, 10th man. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, we've got the gravity question. Oh, hold on, guys. Hold on. Let's get this train wreck back on the rails. What's your claim, Spurs? What are you actually claiming?
That there is a sign of gravity.
And what is that sign?
Atmospheric pressure.
Yo, really? You have that scientific evidence?
No, I'm saying that's a sign that we have.
We don't want to hear it. If you don't have scientific evidence of gravity, we don't want to hear it.
Question is specifically phrased, any scientific evidence of gravity. That's why you have Travis going, scientific evidence of what?
Well, it's been scientifically proven that there is atmospheric pressure, right? That's what you agree to. Otherwise, you wouldn't accept it, right? Obviously, there's science that backs atmospheric pressure. Otherwise, you wouldn't have adhered to it.
Is there?
So obviously, well, that's what you're... Well, we don't have atmospheric pressure. I don't understand. You were saying last week I'm a pressure denier. So I'm saying that if there's pressure...
Spurs, let me reply. Yeah? Let me reply, please. Right. If there's a cause and effect relationship that needs analysis, then there may be, or may have been, a scientific study that conforms to the scientific method in regards to an effect caused by pressure. That doesn't necessarily mean that there's scientific validity being given to it, because it's not a cause and effect relationship, is it?
Precisely.
So why do we talk about atmospheric pressure as a thing then? If it's not,
it is a thing.
If it's not being
because we sense it. You don't, apparently.
But the ball earthers sense rotation, they sense curvature.
Do they? Do they? Do you want to show me where they've sensed it?
Well, they've never brought any evidence of curvature. They brought their senses, what they think.
That's not senses.
So,
thinking
wait,
isn't a
Globers
sense.
have told you that they've sensed rotation? I've never heard that.
Have they ever brought evidence of rotation?
Hold on, chocolate.
Absolutely not.
Hold on.
Actually not.
So hold on, one second.
Evidence of rotation.
Hold on, someone said something from the Discord server. Do you want to go ahead, whoever it was that was trying to interrupt? Or maybe not.
Thank you.
I just want to say that, you at the moment, John and Dal, all this idea of a pushing, pressing on us, that you were all wrong. Because you've just said there is no science to prove that there is a pressing. There is no science for gravity.
We don't
But
need scientific
if you're accepting a pressing with no science, then why are you not accepting gravity?
One word. Remember I told everyone to tell Spurs one word? What's that one word, people?
Barometer.
Okay, can you demonstrate this for us? Because that's what we want, right? We want
Barometer. Okay.
Well, hold on.
Now go back to second grade and do a little
hold on.
barometer test, and it's over for you. Okay. Thanks.
Okay, so we'll do Cavendish, and it's
Why,
over for you.
hold up. Why is the
Cavendish have
barometer
to do
test
with it?
somehow?
We're talking about gas pressure now.
Everyone be quiet.
Barometer.
Stop.
Barometer is
Hello.
not a Cavendish
Hello. The guy that was trying to
have
get
this
it.
with 10th man, so it didn't turn into
Spurs.
right?
Somebody's trying to talk to you. Go ahead from
You're
Discord.
shouting at me. 5 people. Why?
That's what I'm trying to stop that from happening. Go ahead, guy from Discord. Why would you interrupt guy from Discord, right, to start audio chaos, and then when I clear the airwaves for you, you literally don't say a bloody word? Are you trying to piss me off?
Who is it?
Who was it?
I'm pretty sure it was that RC Meisty guy. That's the reverse reification guy. That guy.
Wait, what is the?
I'm going in.
With me?
Sorry, Spurs.
RC
Surprisingly,
Meisty.
that wasn't at all your fault. Did I say hello to the one?
Hello. What's up?
Hello, the one. So Spurs, you don't. Let's just.
No, but Nathan, this is why I'd rather not do this with you, because it's going to get heated, it's going to get wild, and we don't want that kind of aggression for something that can be understood with simple conversation. So
Okay.
I'm just saying that if we have proof or evidence or scientific evidence of atmospheric pressure, well, then we can go from there. But we're expecting something.
And I've just tried, Spurs, to explain that you're misunderstanding what these terms mean. Yeah? Having something that is observably obvious doesn't make it scientific. Having a cause and effect relationship that's been valid by hypothesis-driven systematic experimentation, that makes it scientific. Observing the bloody obvious does not. So you don't need to science atmospheric pressure.
Well, you do, because again, there's a press that I don't feel, there's curvature that I don't see, there's a spin that I don't feel. So there's phenomena in nature that cannot be registered unless you go underwater. That would be real pressure.
No,
But
sorry,
people-
that's just you for schemo.
Everyone's rumpusing him. I don't mind him getting to the end of his nonsense point.
What's wrong with the conversation? I'm just trying to make a calm point. I'm simply saying that, to me, real world pressure is felt underwater, where the deeper you go, the more pressure you feel. And now we're being told that this same pressure calculation is felt at sea level. Now I'm just trying to understand, how is it 14.7 at sea level and 14.7 under the ocean at 33 feet? That's very bizarre.
Right, but one thing we do know about it is that it is there.
Now, wait a minute.
Don't
You
you
said
agree,
something very...
first schemo?
This is why I don't want to have an argument with someone.
It is there, isn't it?
If I go back and forth with Arwin going to say, because it is, because you just
you just literally said it. You just described it. So I then asked if we could establish that it is indeed there.
Look, here is the pressure. This is how we measured it, and this is where it shows 14.7. We've never seen this. As far as I'm concerned, you could have said 20.7, 50.7, 15.7. That number was arbitrarily chosen for whatever reason, and I'd like now to know how they calculated 14.7. Is that too much to ask?
Go back to third grade and then go up through the scheme again. The primary school for you.
Shout out to theflatearthchannel.com, who says nothing but gives me money. Anyway, thank you very much indeed. Really appreciate your support. Thank you very much indeed.
You're telling me to go away and demonstrate something the same way that the ball earthers tell you, John, to go away and show that the earth is rotating.
Well, whatever, Spurs. I'm not dealing with you because you need to go to Pete and Pete show or something. You need to take your show on the road.
Yeah, but you're telling me what the ball earthers tell you.
I don't care. I don't care what you say. Barometer. That's my answer. Barometer.
Okay, hold on, guys. Adam Meakin from the chat says 33 feet underwater is 2 atmospheres of pressure, not 1.
Yeah, and how did they get that's because they've added the 14.7 from sea level. How did you get the 14.7 to add it in the first place?
Barometer.
Yeah, let's have a look then, John. Let's see it.
No.
Exactly.
Do I need to show you a barometer, Spurs?
If you take a gauge and you go underwater from 0, the pressure will increase.
We're not going underwater.
1 PSI, 2 PSI.
We're not going
underwater. How a barometer functions.
Atmospheric pressure.
So if that's not
Why
how
do you understand how a barometer functions,
first chemo? How did you get 14?
It measures the pressure differential between the tube and the stuff in it and what is outside. Whatever is outside. Whether that be gas pressure, whether that be liquid pressure, it's just the pressure differential. That is how a barometer works.
Well, let's see it. Has anyone on Earth ever seen a barometer work?
Yes, I've seen a barometer. I've held a barometer.
I say no, and they would
never.
Oh,
you say no? Well, I'm sorry that you say no. I'm sorry that you're constantly trying to gaslight everyone with that we don't experience pressure when we clearly do and have examples for that. I'm really sorry that you can't open up that single chance.
I say you're saying the same thing to me that the ball earthers say to you.
Guys, can I just try and diffuse the situation a little bit?
No.
Just by why?
I'm really joking.
Well,
Go ahead.
I'd like to not play devil's advocate, but I'd like to suggest a suggestion that Spurs may have a little bit of weight on. If I present my screen, Nathan, let me just pull this thing up. And I'm not doing this just to be contentious. I'm doing this because I think he might have half a point. I'm not saying I agree with him. I'm just saying that it's dawned on me something last
Get
night.
out right now.
Yeah, get out of here, Anthony. Are you going to entertain this
Maybe for the
nonsense?
after show, Anthony.
Come on, let's have it. Let's have a look.
So,
my
all right, so
don't rumpus him. Let's hear it.
All right, so just bear with me. Just let me make my point. When I was discussing with George Netanyahu last night, it dawned on me that the layers of the atmosphere that we're told, like the ice, the stratosphere and all the mesosphere and all them, they're effectively like layers that are inside this container, right? And we must be living in a contained environment of some kind because we do have gas pressure. What happens if we're the cherry tomato and everything below the cherry tomato is the earth? And the layers that the cherry tomato sits in, or us, are just the layers of the atmosphere, the different gases that are in the atmosphere. And if we didn't have a dynamic sun that mixed it all up and made it into a big dynamic system with the carbon cycle, the nitrogen cycle, and the hydrocycle, and all the other things that influence what goes on, could it not be that the layers of the air that the barometers are measuring are actually the density or the mass of the layer that we happen to be in that we call pressure? Maybe Spurs is right. Maybe it's measuring the mass of the volume that we're in.
What is wrong with you?
Right. What you're looking at is layers of bonded liquids in layers. Gas isn't like that at all.
Just a suggestion. I'm not saying it is right. I'm just saying that I can see where Spurs is coming from. Maybe barometers are measuring the mass of the medium that we're in at the layer that we're at the time.
They're measuring the pressure differential, not the mass.
Can I make another point? This point, what I
hold on, Spurs. Is that all you've got, Anthony?
I just think when you look at the definition of pressure within physics, you could make that fit what we're looking at.
Really, gas pressure. Really, go ahead.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that I can see Spurs' angle a little bit clearer now because I had a discussion with George last night.
Mud-covered glasses
I can see it as well, but I also can see it well enough to know that is absolutely, unmistakably a mistake.
Okay.
It's bigger than that. It's buffoonery.
The point I was going to make was any gas canister, pressurized canister, if you were to remove the liquid or the fluid from that canister,
God,
you would remove the pressure. So when it when you see a
Why
gradient,
don't you go to Jose's channel, okay, and run the ballers for the next few weeks? I think it's funny, but I've about had enough.
I'll have another back and
You're
forth.
lucky you're not in
there.
Discord.
This has to
Ballers
be a sign of gravity.
You
Then,
learned
because
your
how
lesson from
pressure
that.
without a force? How do
Yeah, you
explain
learned
this
your
force?
lesson from that. I know you're not in Discord.
John, how do you explain this force? What is this force pressing down on us?
What?
30 days in the hole.
What force pressing down upon us?
How do you have pressure, Arwin, without a force?
You have a container.
Well, there's the force of basically the molecules themselves bouncing back and forth. That is kind of what in gas, because it's so easy for the gas particles to do. That's what causes gas pressure to basically expand in all directions until it hits an equal and opposite kind of force, like a barrier, which would be the container.
You're saying molecules bounce back and forth. So
Yes, that's pressure. That's what molecules do. That's what gas pressure first and foremost.
Okay.
What
So
gas molecules do. They bounce in all
that.
directions very loosely.
Okay. So we know that warm air rises and those molecules are going up because of the temperature. They're warm. So how are they going back? What mechanism is drawing these molecules back?
Besides their displacement, they also are subjected to the entropy of temperature. And as they go higher up, they go further away from the heat source on the Earth. And then there they mix in with the colder air that is around that spot. And then that same air will go stable, maybe go down. Definitely the moist within the air will start to hydrate again, turn into droplets, and that's how the clouds get there. So there's all kinds of interactions because of the temperature.
Exactly, because of the temperature. This is the only cause that will affect.
No, it's not. No, that's not what I said. First, the pressure differential makes it displaced.
So what are the other causes?
The pressure differential makes it displaced, and then the
if
temperature afterwards cools it down. It's another process.
Hold on, Arwin. Ask your question again, Spurs.
Yeah, so if temperature causes the molecules particles to go up and go down, what other force is making things go down or up? If I have a particle,
relative density.
That's a force.
Well, the relative density disequilibrium does seem to create force.
I had to define force, Arwin. Can you define force?
Force is energy that is basically causes to which matter is subject, as it were.
Right. So where do they get their energy? If a particle's going up because of temperature, that's their energy. Where is their other energy to make them bounce in a different direction?
Bounce in a different direction.
They're
not bouncing.
No.
You're talking about air layer. An air layer functions differently.
One at a time.
Hold
on. Just Arwin. Go on, Arwin.
An air layer and its average temperature is very different from separate gas particles and what they do as a mash.
I'm talking about the cause of their movement, Arwin. The particles, the air, the atmosphere, the cause of the direction.
Right. Well, what expands in all directions and all that is purely due to the condition of the molecules. But entire bodies of air and temperature and pressure, they displace in accordance to the relative density of the mash of it, not of the individual molecules.
Arwin, you haven't given me the force.
Relative density disequilibrium.
Demonstrate that force for me.
Riley, would you do the honors?
And I would say in that gradient, the temperature at the bottom would be different to the top, Arwin, and that is the cause.
He's not talking about temperature. You're not listening to what he's saying, Spurs.
Nathan, in a denser medium, the temperature is different to the thinner medium. You can't get away from that. You can't have a dense medium and have the temperature different to what it would be. You can only have one type of temperature in a low pressure and one temperature in a high pressure.
That's not true. That's absolutely not true.
Yeah, they may be correlated, but
I explained this in detail yesterday. There are two different relations concerning temperature and pressure. If you amp up the pressure, then the temperature in that chamber will also go up slightly. but not as much as the pressure overall does. Same way, if you amp up the temperature in a closed room, then the pressure will go up slightly, but not nearly as much as the temperature goes up. So there is a correlation, but it's not parallel, it's not symmetrical, or however you called it. It's not the same thing. It's not interchangeable. One follows the other. They're absolutely separate effects.
No, in a container.
Yes, and I just explained exactly why that is
Owen.
effect.
Owen, just let him respond.
What's wrong with this guy? So no, in a container, pressure and temperature go hand in hand. You lower the temperature, you lower the pressure. You increase the temperature, you increase the pressure. Now outside, in the real world where you stand, you can't control any of that. And we only feel the effects of temperature. Zero pressure. Now, if there is such a pressure outside, Arwin, instead of giving me your religious, we do it, they've got it, can you demonstrate this? You know,
shut the hell up, you freaking Brenda wannabe.
Right, hold on. If you're giving up, Arwin, no. Someone else then. If you don't want to, someone else address this question. He's making a claim.
He called my explanation.
No worries. Go ahead, Owen.
Okay?
Go ahead.
That was a very good explanation.
Owen, I heard it. It was good. I agree. Forced the relative density disequilibrium was a good answer. It was very concise. You gave a good preamble beforehand. He just hand waved it. Now, if you're pissed off with it, I don't blame you. But John's desperate to try and get in. Just don't rumpus him.
Okay, I'll be on mute.
Thank you.
It won't take long, Arwin. Ready? Barometer. Thanks.
Condenses in cold. Yeah, they condense in cold weather. If that barometer freezes, you can't take a pressure measurement. They don't work. Metal contracts in cold temperatures.
What temperature does mercury freeze at?
30, 40, minus 30, 40. You'll get no readings after this because it will freeze. The particles will condense.
You know, there are other forms of barometers,
Let's
right?
see those other forms of barometers.
Yeah, you can just simply use other materials specifically designed for unnatural temperature ranges to overcome the problem of mercury freezing, for example.
Yeah, I can, Arvin, but why can't you? Why can't you?
Barometer.
They freeze up at cold temperatures.
Prosecution rest. Well, just go somewhere where it's not freezing.
Yeah, say the full sentence, John. Barometers freeze in cold temperatures and expand in warm temperatures.
Well, then just go somewhere where it's not freezing, then.
How are you going to control the atmosphere?
No, John, he's misleading you. There are barometers specifically designed for very
cold. The only pressure in reality is water pressure, liquid pressure.
I know, I really don't care.
Well, like I said, barometers, all of these devices, they read liquid pressure. That's the only real pressure that we measure. And in any canister, as I've just said, if you remove the liquid, if you drain the water from any canister, you remove the pressure.
Go to Pete and Pete's, right? The water's an element. Is that Pete and Pete's? Am I right in that?
Yeah, Pete and Pete.
Pete and Pete. Yeah, go to Pete and Pete's or go to Jose's.
Who's
Bye.
Pete and Pete?
Don't let the door hit you on the way in the
Spurs, I'm a little confused. Are you trying to say that the only pressure is liquid pressure? There's no such thing as gas pressure. We're still doing that.
There is gas pressure. There is gas pressure, but in a container, a real container. So we don't live in a container. What container do we live in?
But then how do we have the gas pressure in the first place?
We don't have gas pressure. We have gas. It's not pressurized.
That's what you're saying. There's
It
no gas pressure.
moves around. It moves everywhere it wants to go. It's not bouncing off any walls. If you look up the assumptions about gases, they assume that they are round, rigid spheres. They assume that they move in straight lines. They assume all kinds of things about gases. They don't know what the gases are doing, right? But in that presentation I made with Ranty, there's a guy who shows the atmosphere through a portal, and you can see the atmosphere as you wouldn't be able to see in an everyday situation. And he shows that all the atmosphere is going up, not pressing on you. It's going the opposite way.
I'm almost willing to pay somebody to kick him.
Well, no. Let me just try and reason with him once more. Okay, Spurs.
$50 on my PayPal will do fine.
Hold on, there's no to kick me. Look,
I didn't even get 3 seconds. I didn't even get to start.
No, because I knew this would happen. Everyone's going to get aggressive and angry and upset.
I haven't even started yet.
All right, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. So, do you accept that gas is particles? It's molecules. That they are things. Do you accept that first of all?
They're things. They are something that we're still trying to work out what exactly they are.
Would you accept? Would you accept that at a microscopic level you could see gas particles?
Again, if you were, I know you're asking a question. If you were to look at the particles in a microscope, you would see a fluid, like a liquid.
No,
something moving around.
What?
Okay, no, that's okay. I didn't think I'd have to take a step further back, but I don't mind. Okay, do you accept that at a fundamental level, a liquid, not fluid, a liquid is bonded together, whereas a gas isn't? It's separate and free to move. And the thing I'm talking about when I say it is what I'm asking you to, or I was asking you to accept, is a real thing.
No, I agree. What you just said, I agree. They're not bonded together. They're freely moving. What you just said, they're freely moving around.
And they are the thing I asked you to get the first concession in this regard. They being... You're talking about Spurs. You asked me why I get aggressive. This is why. Because you're pissing me right off. I'm in the middle of getting clarity. You've made me take a step back into retarded... Let's not. Let's calm down. Take a breath. Spurs. That which we are referring to when we say it is unbonded, do you accept it is an actual thing? Like a dot if you were to draw it on a piece of paper to represent that thing that we are calling it?
Yes, for the sake of argument, yes.
So a little dot that I could draw on a piece of paper would be representative of...
Yeah, like Conspiracy Cats draws those dots, yeah. I would accept that.
Fine. Yeah. That's all I wanted, a yes. Bloody hellfire. Okay. Now, I'm going to use something that's analogous. Not the same, but comparable. So imagine a tennis ball. Okay? It's like the dot of gas, but much, much bigger. Now, when I throw the tennis ball against a wall, would you accept that when it touches the wall, it presses on the wall?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's a dot that can press on something, and when it presses, it causes pressure. The tennis ball.
Yes.
Right. Gas is exactly the same.
This is where the contention comes in, because now I'm saying the opposite. This tennis ball, you have to imagine it more like a jelly ball, right? So when this tennis ball presses against the wall, it doesn't bounce back. It hits the wall and drips down the wall, right? So when you have two jelly balls that are pressed together, you will have a liquid. I mean, very difficult to get two tennis balls and form a liquid. They would have to be of a jelly type substance to form that liquid, that fluid. Now, when you take these jelly tennis balls...
We're not taking jelly tennis balls. I didn't use jelly tennis balls. They're not liquid. They're not bonded. It's analogous to one particle of gas, one molecule. That's what it's the equivalent of. One. Not bonded, not jelly, not flowing, not talking over every single time I rebut your false equivalents that I did not use. It's not a jelly ball, it's a tennis ball. When it hits a wall, it causes a force, a pressure. It presses on it. Gas is the same. It expands in all directions, and when it strikes the walls of the container, it's pressing on the walls of the container in the same way a tennis ball is. That pressing is pressure.
Yes, it's not a jelly ball. It's a very self-confident ball.
I'm going to share my screen, Nathan. Share my screen if you don't mind. And I'm going to show you the assumptions that you are giving us about gases. And this is what I'm trying to say. So you've just given the assumption that gases are, rigid spheres. This is what science believes, that the molecules behave as rigid spheres. That's the assumption, Nathan. And as we can see, that in a container, they're not rigid balls because they liquefy. And if you look at all of these assumptions that science makes, they're nonsense. They have no idea.
Okay, you've just made an assertion. So you're saying that they... Spurs, please don't interrupt me again. You wonder why I get aggressive? I've told you once. Do I have to tell you a second time that interrupting me while I point out that you have made a baseless assertion, and I want you to back your baseless assertion about the dripping down walls and becoming squidgy. Where's the validity to this statement you're making?
I don't think gas actually literally physically sticks to the wall like some layer.
Due to the fact that every gas pressurized container has a fluid at the bottom. That's how you know this. They're not solid little balls at the bottom of the container, are they? They are compressed liquid. How do you compress tennis balls into liquid?
Actually,
I'm not compressing tennis
We've
balls.
got a bit of confusion. We want to get it kind of cleared up.
It's an analogy. Sorry, Paul. I just want to draw a close.
Okay.
Paul, just want to draw a close. It's not saying gas is tennis balls. I made it really clear. I said it really slowly. It's an analogy.
It's the wrong analogy because they're not, as I showed here, they are not rigid spheres. That's the assumption. Now, you cannot demonstrate they are actually rigid spheres. How do they know they're even spheres? What gives you the impression that they are round
because
spheres?
It's matter. It's stuff. It's real stuff.
You're correct. You're correct.
Hold on. He's asking. I want to tell him. When you've got ice, the solid state, and then you've got water, it doesn't vanish into thin air and just not exist anymore when it becomes steam. It's still a thing. It's just no longer bonded. And those... Oh, for the love of fuck. Why are you interrupting me, Spurs? I'm asking you a question. Why are you continually interrupting me?
I thought you'd finished.
What, while I'm in the middle of a sentence? Okay, I'll try and continue, hopefully uninterrupted. You can see that it's stuff when it's ice. You can see that it's stuff when it's water. And in reality, in many instances, you can see that it's stuff when it's steam. It's still stuff. It's still hitting walls, and it still presses on the walls when it hits it. It's just as simple as that.
Indeed, and it can be confirmed by the mass of it not being lost into nothing. The mass remains. That's why you can have a closed off room with water in it, then change things about it. For example, the temperature, the water will evaporize. As long as the chamber is sealed, the entire weight of it will remain the same. Even though there is no more liquid in that room, it's now all in the form of gas. The mass, the perceived weight remains the same.
Right, ice...
Because it doesn't disappear into nothing.
Ice is water, okay? Water is not ice, but ice is water. So you can actually have water around the exterior of any object because ice, as you know, freezes around any object. So the way you're understanding the molecules, the particles, is not, what you can demonstrate. So you can demonstrate that they're akin to tennis balls or anything rigid like that because inside any gas container, they liquefy. Now, balls, molecules to liquefy.
Okay, now shut the fuck up and respond to my question, you asshole. Asshole.
Go on, Owen, you are swearing because you're triggered now, so don't make me kick you out, please. I don't know how he does it. Owen, I totally get it.
I just thought I let him go for a minute, and he just dives off in more shit, and he doesn't answer the question. He evades it persistently, and I'm sick of it. I don't care for your stupid mystery explanations if you never address any questions that actually address it.
Because we're looking for demonstrations, Arwin, and we can see in every...
Shut up!
We can see in every container...
Steam.
Whiny mouth! God,
Steam.
You're turning me into John! Shut up!
There you go, demonstration.
Hey!
Steam. I've given you a demonstration, you've ignored it. Steam. I gave a really concise explanation for it, Spurs. You've just ignored it completely.
Steam is a demonstration of what?
Of it being stuff, and you watching it press on a wall. Now, most times it'll just condense. It seems that I'm talking, and you're constantly interrupting me, Spurs.
You're asking me a question.
I'm not. I'm in the middle of a sentence. I'm describing it again, and you're interrupting me again while I'm in the middle of the sentence, cutting my line. I can watch it. You're doing it now. You're doing it right now. Yeah, that's irritating, Spurs. I'm talking, and yet you're talking as well. So, yeah, Spurs, it becomes a gas that you can see. You can visually see it as stuff touching the walls. Simple.
Right, so you've just said it yourself. That steam is not compressed. It's just in the air, just moving around this until it touches a wall. When it hits that wall, it will what? Liquefy and run down that wall. The particles of steam don't bounce off the wall or the window and then bounce back into the atmosphere, do they?
Yes, some of them do.
Can I jump in?
Some of them condense. Go ahead, Paul.
Okay. I've been doing some research on this, Spurs. Okay. Do you know molecules of gas and other substances have a charge to them? Do you know that?
No.
Well, okay. That's very important to remember, because what causes molecules to drop or molecules to form is the kinetic energy is reduced, and the charges within those molecules cause them to attract one another. Okay, that's what causes molecule or water droplets to form. The reason the molecule bounces off of the surface is that because they have the same charge, and it's like two magnets bounce, two positively charged or two North Pole magnets pushing against each other. That's why molecules bounce off surfaces, is because of the charge.
Okay.
Of the
Okay. So how high do the particles bounce off the surface of the floor of Earth? When they hit the floor, how high do they bounce back up? What's the height?
Until they encounter a force to stop them.
Yeah. So I'm asking. So when they hit a surface, they don't bounce back. You're not making any sense. So they bounce.
No. This is why important is to define what a force is. The idea of a force is a push or pull. Okay, when I'm pushing on my mouse to move it around, I'm adding a pushing and sometimes a pulling force to cause it to move. When a particle hits a contact with another surface, that force of it hitting it is pushed back by the surface, causing it to go in the other direction.
I'm asking
that's a relative approach.
Hold on, Arwin. Hold on, Arwin. Go on, Spurs.
I'm asking you how high, Paul, when the particle, like Nathan says, the tennis ball hits the wall, we can measure with the force how far that ball will go. So you're saying particles come down, hit the floor. Well, how high does that particle bounce back up?
Until a force acts upon it to stop it from moving.
So if a force didn't act, how high would the particle bounce?
It would just keep traveling in that direction it was moving.
Yes.
So it would go down, then up, down, then up.
Yeah, look, gas pressure expanding is a separate force
just let
from
Paul. Arwin, please.
From displacement. I'm just trying to point it out.
Paul, are you saying the particle would come down and then hit up, bounce up straight back?
No, it would keep going in the same direction until a force acts upon it. Whatever direction that particle is moving.
So let's say one's coming from the sky, it's coming down, hits the ground. You're saying it will hit the ground and do what?
Bounce back in the opposite direction.
Right. How high? Or just straight back up?
He's already answered.
Until a force interacts with it to cause it to change direction.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So you'll see it goes back down and then straight back up until it hits the ceiling and then back down. Yeah?
I didn't say anything about a ceiling. I said a force, or I guess you could say some kind of substance that it would come in contact with.
So I'm asking you then, how high? What's that rate? What's the speed? The particle comes down. How fast?
Depends on the energy of the particle. What's the problem, right? Do you accept that it bounces, Spurs?
No, I don't. I'm asking him how high and where does it hit something when it goes back up, and what does it hit, and when does it? What's the speed? What's the rate?
Well, it depends on the particle. It depends on how much kinetic energy it has. There's a lot of factors, Spurs. So
the Heisenberg uncertainty principle.
You said you did some research. Give me one particle that you've researched that bounces, that goes up at a certain speed and comes down and hits something. What happens? What have you researched?
You want an example with something you can see? Okay, a steam room.
No.
Yeah, in the real world, a steam room. Yeah,
it's
not.
Have you ever watched Thomas the Tank Engine, Spurs?
Hold on. No. You're saying steam.
Yeah, they've harnessed this power. We realise that as well. Discord, well commented. So
you're saying steam.
Steam room, right? It's not condensing, is it? It's hot enough to keep it as a steam, isn't it? And you can see it.
So I'm asking,
it's bouncing. It's bouncing off the walls of the container. randomly in all directions. It's not that it's reaching the floor, bouncing, and then going, oh, I'm like a tennis ball in this example, and going, oh, I'm losing all my kinetic energy because I'm actually a solid. They're not solid. They're expanding in all directions, they're travelling in all directions, they're moving freely and randomly at high speed.
Is this a joke?
In a steam room. You haven't answered me. So is that hand wave dismissal to my visual example of steam not condensing on the walls of the container, but in fact bouncing randomly off the walls in all directions at high speed in random always? That's not a good enough example, is it not?
You're saying the walls are not soaked with water from the water, the particles.
It's too hot.
Yeah, it's a steam room. The primary purpose being for it to be steamy.
Yeah, because it's coming from a fire, from a source. If you stop that source, that steam will just wet the walls.
Yes, that's correct. With that particular gas, it needs to be in a hot environment. That's just the parameters for that particular gas. Let's not worry about the parameters that create the gas. Let's just worry that we definitely have got a gas, and it's definitely not condensing, and it's definitely bouncing off the walls of the container in a way that you can see and not deny. We're waiting for you to say yes.
He's on mute.
No, I think you're joking. Also, I can't believe you. I can't believe what I'm hearing right now.
What you mean a full description of how it works?
Right. So let me go through how I
can't believe that.
Go through what? It's visually described.
Why not? What is
I've just described it and then met silence, and now Arwin's decided that the silence where he should be conceding is his time to argue with him. I've got a long pause silence because I've drawn him to the point where he can't argue anymore, Arwin. It doesn't need a new point. It needs him to concede. It's visually obvious in a steam room. He just left a long silence.
Right, this is why I have to ask. Are you kidding or are you being serious?
You haven't denied anything. I've described something. A steam room. Steam being gas. Now you're talking. Steam being gas. Not a joke. A visual representation you may have even experienced personally, where gas is bouncing visually. You can see it in all directions moving randomly. This isn't a joke. It's a visual example of gas. Simple.
So, let's explain how I understand what...
No, let's get your... Oh, I understand that that's a visual example of gas bouncing off the walls of a container. And it's that visual representation. I haven't finished. I'm pausing to breathe. I'm literally taking breath. Yeah, breathing in the gas pressure.
Exactly.
So, Spurs, it's just a way of qualifying it so you can see that it's not vanishing, it's not disappearing, it doesn't stop being in existence when it becomes a gas. It's still there, you can still see it, and it's definitely just bouncing off the walls. But you haven't conceded. You now want to give a different description rather than say, yes, I understand. All you've said is this a joke. No, Spurs, it's not. It's a visual demonstration of the point. You can even like your farts.
But am I going to be able to get through an explanation of what's going on or not? This is not something where you say concede because you've got it wrong.
You have got it wrong. Gas has pressure. It's the force exerted on the walls of the container.
Instead of just demanding that I agree, why don't you let me explain why you're wrong, and then see we can find out if you're wrong.
You haven't addressed why I'm right. I've given you a visual example, and you've said, "Am I joking?" That's your rebuttal. Essentially, Spurs, a hand wave dismissal to something that every member of the audience can visualize and understand. You've got something that is solid in the form of ice, liquid in the form of water, and gas in the form of steam. In certain circumstances, with a heater, as you put it, you can maintain its gaseous state and observe it doing what it does, moving randomly and bouncing off the walls.
Okay, this is incorrect. And I'm going to explain why. When you have steam coming from a source, that steam will obviously build up in the room until it hits a wall. Once it hits the wall will start to absorb that water, and it will turn to, this is where you'll see the pressurized gases on the wall. The walls will start to drip. You'll see sweaty walls, you might call it. These walls will start to drip with the gases from wherever it's coming from, the source. If I use a kettle, for example, if I turn the kettle off...
Spurs, you're describing a phase transition, and I'm not interested in the phase transition. I'm interested in it when it's in that specific state of gas. I'm not interested in detailing the transition back to water. I'm talking about the gas that's not condensing, that stays in the chamber. It doesn't all instantly condense when it hits the walls. Some of it stays there. That's the stuff I'm talking about, not the stuff that's gone through the phase transition back to water. The gas, because that's what we're talking about.
Again, incorrect. In this high temperature, the particles are expanding, dispersing. They're not coming into a tighter ball. This would be impossible. It's not cold in there for the particles to condense tighter and tighter and start bouncing. They would expand more and more and more. And when they hit a real surface, like a wall, then they start to pressurize again, and you see the liquid fall down the walls. Very, very simple. You stop the gas, the room doesn't start to fill with gas all of a sudden. All the gas that's left, you will see on the walls.
No, no, that's wrong. You're telling me you're saying you can't see the gas in a steam room. You're just denying the very description of the thing I've got you to... And now you're talking over me. Of course, why would you be doing anything else while it's my turn to talk?
How can it expand in high pressure? How can it collapse in high pressure? The gas is expanding, not collapsing.
Yeah.
We're talking about
how is it condensating on the top of that container?
The pressure is the real pressure.
But how is it condensating there if it wasn't in a gaseous state?
How can it?
Does it move in there through the sides in a liquid form?
It's just rumpusing the hell out of you.
Not solid. They're expanding. They're warm. They're hot. They're dispersing. The hotter it is, the less they can be a particle. They've got nothing to condense to be a particle in the first place until they hit a wall. Once they hit a wall, they return to the form of a liquid under pressure.
No, they don't.
So they do
like
form into gas.
In the middle of the room.
So they do transit the gas.
You're acting like gas is just being built up magically from the middle of the room, and oh look, gas is just dispersing from the middle of the room. Look at all that pressure. No, it's coming from a single source, which is pumping out this gas, which is dispersing in high pressure. Cannot condense, so there's no pressure here. It's going away until it hits a wall. I don't have to repeat this. This is simple. You see this everywhere. In a container.
Pretty sure you don't.
In a contained environment.
I'm pretty sure if you have a kettle that's very hot, it's not gonna turn liquid again. That only happens in a distiller.
Low pressure, those particles would freeze. In high temperature, they expand. So where's the pressure?
He just said in low pressure. That's what he just said. So he's now even equivocating with the very term he's denying.
Yeah, in a container, in a steam room.
Yeah, that's the point of the argument. You need a container. Yeah, that's the only reason. And we know that gas does press on the walls. All of this is all understood principles. You're just being a denier. It makes no sense to me.
You get that. They expand, not condense. So how are they going to bounce if they're expanding?
Condense means phase change. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about the part where it changes into water. We're talking about what it does when it is a gas, not the phase change. You're focused on what happens when it hits the walls and there's a sufficient temperature difference for it to condense. Now, I'm not talking about that. I've tried to put the parameters such that the walls will not create condensation. Now, you're saying, yeah, but you still get condensation in a steam room. And you're right. I'm not going to lie and say that it doesn't happen. I've been in a steam room. It doesn't change the fact that there is still gas. That every molecule of gas is not condensing, but you'll just deny this.
But again, how can they contract? It's not cold.
What do you mean contract? We're not talking about the phase change. I've just said that. You've just ignored me.
But you're talking about pressure. The pressure here. Where's the pressure? The only pressure is when they hit the walls.
So you accept that there is pressure then? Oh, great. Finally, a concession. Yes, the pressure is the force exerted on the walls of the container by the gas. Yes. Thank God. Can we move on?
You don't live in a container, Nathan. So the particles disperse. They don't bounce anywhere. The warm air rises. As they rise, they expand until they reach a cold area, then they contract, lose potential kinetic energy and all that malarkey, and then fall back down. What are they bouncing off? I'm yet to hear where's this dough.
You're asking me what they bounce off, and you're denying the very bouncing. That's pressure. The bouncing is the pressure. Now you're asking me what they're going to bounce off. You're denying that they have any bounce.
No,
how dare you?
They don't bounce off the walls.
Yeah, they do. That's what is pressure. It seems like you're in this globe head mindset where you want to deny what pressure is. Because they need it to just fall back down again. To have sky vacuums. It seems like that's their next argument, and you're forming it for them.
Well, no, again, that doesn't form their argument. It just explains that we're being honest. We don't know what is up there.
We do.
We don't know
So you are on their side, aren't
up
you?
there. No,
So
the ball
you are with the ballers then.
Ball earthers say they have been up there.
We make no positive assertions in that regard, Spurs. Well, at least I don't. I know there's plenty of flat earthers out there that absolutely do make positive assertions, and they can make it by logical deduction. I don't make any assertions about the skies, but for the fact that we have gas pressure, which you seem to want to deny. Well, gas pressure absolutely is the force the gas exerts on the walls of a container. That's what gas pressure is. Now you're saying, well, the only way around that, and the only reason I can see you want a way around that, is to make space real.
No, not space. Containment doesn't mean container.
Yeah, it does! They're the same bloody word. Containment, container, yeah, same thing, Spurs. To be contained, you need a container.
Hold on. When it rains and it goes into the water, that's not a container, is it? So you can go into the water yourself, but
why are you constantly talking about water? We're talking about gas. We're talking about a fundy assertion that we've got a sky vacuum and the nature of gas and how it presses on the walls of the container to give you gas pressure. That's how you get it in the first instance. To be gas pressure, it must have pressed on something. If it's dispersing infinitely, it's never going to press. Therefore, is not pressure. But you want to deny the very nature and ask me what something's pressing on.
Objection.
Even if it's liquid water, you still have to have a container. Even if it's liquid water, you still have to have a container. It just doesn't have to have a top on it because liquid water has hydrogen bonds.
What this does, Nathan, this
Newton's law have a container. You still got a sides to have water pressure. You have to have sides and a floor. Hello.
So what's the roof of the water, of the sea? Where's the roof?
You don't need one.
Exactly.
Because water is liquid, and liquid water has hydrogen bonds. You don't need a top on
Let's say fish, for example. Fish
because it's a false equivalence fallacy, right? Spurs.
Did you hear what he just said?
Fish can't leave the water, can they?
Right? Spurs, it's called a false equivalence fallacy because you keep using the terms of water. And we're not talking about the behaviour of water. We're talking about the behaviour of gas.
Yeah. And what happens to gas when you compress them?
I have a question for Spurs.
What happens to compressed gas, Nathan?
I mean, what happens to it?
The
molecules get... Okay, I'll answer you. The molecules get closer together. What's your point?
Yeah. So you have a gradient, right? It's denser at the bottom, yeah?
Well, it just means that if they're closer together, there's more of them to press on the walls. Therefore, the measurement of how much is being pressed on the walls goes up.
Right, so that liquid that's at the bottom...
No! What part of gas don't you understand, you complete retard?
Hold on, let's get...
Did you hear what I just said to you? I'm tired of this. I'm going to round out the show shortly, but you've really pissed me off for the last hour. What part of gas don't you get? Not liquid.
That's what happens to gas when they're compressed.
For the love of God, we are not talking about the phase transition. We are talking about the state. It's a gas, not the transition back to liquid, not liquid. Gas. How many more times? The state, not the transition.
There's a difference between gas and pressurized gas.
Gas is a pressure when it exerts a force on the walls of its container.
Who kicked him?
Who kicked him? Somebody kicked Spurs, or did he just lose his connection?
I was just about to. I wanted to ask him. Warrior beat me to it.
I didn't kick him. I can't kick him.
Okay, well, there was supposed to be a presentation. I've been watching the time.
Yeah, Riley, it was you, wasn't it?
I want Paul to get the last word in, and then we will have a second show because I'm going to do a presentation. So there'll be an after show. Stay tuned. Paul, you can have the last word.
Sweet.
No, wait, he left.
Yeah, hang on a second.
I did not kick Spurs. I did not kick Spurs.
It's all right.
No, yeah, sorry for the accusation.
Spurs. Before you start, Spurs, I'm going to round out the live show in about a minute. We're already late. But Paul's going to get the last word, then I'll round out the show, then we can continue this in the after show. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, I can get some breakfast.
Oh, is it going to be
do whatever you like. I'm not your mum.
We're going to have a second show. I can get some breakfast. Cool, go.
Right, you're on, Paul.
Okay, first, real simple, real basic. Water has 3 states. It can become a solid, a liquid, and a gas, all dependent upon the kinetic energy in the molecules. Simple. I'll leave it right there. We'll come back off after the show is rounded out and come back on the next round.
And with that, I'll say, if you are watching this on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. However, if you're watching live on Nathan Oakley 1980, then unfortunately this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on the premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
No axis, no spin.
Yep.
Say again the one?
No axis, no spin.
Still didn't catch that. It was your accent this time.
There is no axis.
There is no axis?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not spinning. Axis denied.
Very good.
Any signs of curvature?
Nope.
I just ended the live show. I know we only got 3 housekeeping questions in that one, and fortunately my wife came home just in time for my blood to boil. So I've got my kids climbing all over me. I'm trying to contain my temper whilst arguing with Spurs. And then my wife came home and took the kid away. And at that point, I'm like, right, finally, I can rage on him because I'm so annoyed.
Spurs still saying the same thing he said a week or two ago. He just wants temperature to be the lid, so to speak. He doesn't accept a container and temperature in a dynamic system where the sun heats up with the kinetic energy. It just got to be temperature with Spurs, not temperature plus a container.
Then how does a hot air balloon work?
Or do you see what I got posted on my screen?
Hold on, I don't know if he's got mic issues because we can't hear him. Normally
Maybe
it's all
it's
like
the jelly tennis balls affecting the mic.
it's normally all I can hear of Spurs is on the panel talking about gas, and now it doesn't press.
While Spurs is working out his mic issues, Paul, it seems that Spurs is struggling with distinguishing. The more you compress a gas, I think Spurs is thinking that makes it into a liquid. That's not right, Spurs. I'm sure he'll correct me, but I think he's relating or correlating compression of gas to liquid state.
No, it's a
He doesn't
fluid.
understand phase transitions. That's it. This is really basic stuff.
It's a fluid. So when you speak of pressurized gas,
Define fluid. Define fluid.
there has to be a gradient. Now,
Define fluid, Spurs. Define fluid.
In every canister, you can feel the weight of that gas. It's heavier at the bottom, and you could shake it. You know, almost like there's like a fluidy.
What a crock of crap! There's no water in my tires, and they're at equal pressure throughout. That's horseshit.
There's no water in your tires. Are you sure?
No, just air, and it's at equal pressure. It's not gradiated.
But what's the definition of air? It's a mixture of gases. Right?
Just air, but squashed into a space so that it puts more force on the rubber. That's it.
No, I hear what you're saying, but if you were to remove the water from inside that tire...
I just said there's no water. Every single time we do this, you decide that you're going to insert water into the example I've given. There isn't any. It's just air that's been squashed into a smaller space so that it puts more force on the rubber. Useful.
How do you have air without water?
It's just air. It's not water. It's not water, Spurs.
I know, I hear what you're saying, but I'm asking you, how do you have water? How did you remove the water from the air?
We're not talking about water. For the love of God. We aren't talking about liquids. We are talking about gases.
But again, in the air is water. So you have to remove the water from the air.
What, like in an air conditioner, like Paul went through with you the other day, you mean?
I was going to go back.
You could, Spurskimo, but why? Why would you remove it from the air?
Because if you remove the water,
you remove the water from the air.
Yeah, if you remove the water from that container or the liquid, you remove the pressure.
No, you don't.
Well, let's demonstrate this then.
Okay,
let's demonstrate you remove, because I spoke to a guy who deals with containers, and he says that he drains the water and then he has to refill it again with more air, which has water in. So how do you remove the water?
The water is taking up more space, so he probably was removing the water to give it more space. But in a pressurized, like a compressed air compressor that I use in the military, they had a water separator that removed the water from the air because water can foul up a pressurized system.
Could you show that, Paul?
Well, you have to give me a minute. Just give me a second.
Sure.
You can talk amongst yourselves. It might take me a second.
Yeah, so like I say, if in any container you remove that liquidy, fluidy from that container, you remove the pressure. There is no more pressure. Whether it be your car tire, whether it be a Lynx, whether it be a spray can, whether it be air compressed, whether it be a scuba diver's tank, any tank that is compressed, if you remove the liquid, you remove the pressure.
No, you don't.
You do not have to remove. You can still have pressure without water.
Well, let's see it then. Well, stop saying it then. You're going to say it 1,000 times. Say, oh, Paul told
why do you keep saying that when you remove the moisture, then you remove all the pressure? That's your claim. So why don't you show that? Show that, Spurskimo.
We know that they bleed. You can bleed.
No, you're making the claim. You're making the claim. So show it.
Okay. So you have your belief then, okay? So you know that
so you're just going to make that claim out of nowhere and refuse to actually...
So you know that there's water in the air.
That's
everybody knows this.
Very proud of you. Yeah.
Paul defined air the other day. He gave us the definition. And there's water in there. So if you're able to remove that water from the air in your tire, you remove the liquid. Very, very simple.
Yeah. And then there's no more pressure, according to you, but you don't feel like actually showing that that is the case with proof.
That's called humidity, Spurs. Okay, and people will move to the high desert so they get a drier climate with just less humidity. What are you trying to say? This is obvious stuff.
What Paul is actually searching for people that paint cars use air compressors that have water filters because it messes up the paint when it sprays it on the car.
Yeah, but paint is always runny. So if you remove that runny, because remember, we don't want runny stuff. You want gas, as Nathan describes, the particles. Now, if you remove that runny stuff and just keep particles...
What's your point, Spurs? You're like big diarrhea forever. My goodness, you're draining.
Spurs,
What's
I'm
your
talking
point?
about the air tank, not the paint.
Sorry?
I'm talking about the air tank. They have an air tank with dry air which goes through a tank filled with paint and then sprays the paint.
Yeah, is paint gas?
Yes, but there is dry air going into the paint first.
But what's at the bottom of the can?
First, the air container that has the air pressure is before the paint container. They're two separate containers.
Why do you have to shake the can though?
First, I'm talking
What does that have to do with it? What's your next question? The gradient?
He's
Well, why do you have to shake it? Why does he have to make the whole container equal?
There's no shaking.
Oh, you don't shake the can, no?
It's a spray gun for professional car painting.
Cool.
It's liquid.
Right,
inside.
guys, can I ask a quick question? So, what I'm planning to do is, John wants to do a presentation on George Netanyahu, and if you like, I can do that presentation and leave you in the hangout, so you can argue amongst yourselves. In other words, do that presentation, then do the next show.
Yeah, let's see John's. I say let's see John's presentation. Then
yeah, go for it. I mean, again, you know, this is not an argument, is it? It's just
they're removing. I've got it. They're removing. I've got a video showing where they use these cylinders. The water condenses in these cylinders, and they drain it out at the bottom. And like it comes in one side and goes out the other, but the water is removed from these two cylinders.
Can you pause it? Pause it. Yeah, I can't put it up on screen, Paul, if you're playing it.
Oh, okay. I'll pause it. Sorry. Give me a second.
Just show the bits by scrubbing, if you will.
Yeah. Basically, okay.
If you can make it full screen as well, please.
Okay. Okay. The air is coming in from the left side, which the guy standing. It goes through these cylinders, which remove the air, and the water accumulates in this device, and then it comes out at the bottom. I don't know if you can see it in this tube, and it comes out the other side as just pressurized air. The water is removed in the system.
Okay, so there's no gradient in this pool, no?
Okay, you're equivocating. You said air is pressure. You said water is pressure. Here's this thing where the water is removed, and you still have air pressure.
Okay, fine. Okay, I've just seen. I accept it. So there's no gradient in that compressed container.
Well, there could be. I mean, I don't know. I don't have the gauges on it, but on the left side here, the air's coming.
Paul, there's no get out. There's no get out of this, you see, because if you remove the water or whatever you think you've removed, and there's no gradient in that container, then in the real world you don't need a gradient. You see? So
first, the real world is a lot bigger than that container.
Hang on, 10th thing. I'm just proving one thing you said. That's all I'm just proving at this very moment.
Okay.
You said water is pressure.
Yeah.
Okay. This guy is removing the water, and there's still pressure.
Is there a gradient in there?
That's not the question. I just disproved your.
How can it be pressure without the gradient? So you're just saying
what does the gradient have to do with what Paul's showing you?
Let's get this right. You've removed the water. There's one particle, and you're saying this one particle is just bouncing off the walls up and down all over the place. That's the pressure.
Yeah, the gas pressure is bouncing all over the surface of the container. The container in this system is the hose, the tubes, wherever the air is coming from, probably, or maybe there's a pump creating the pressure. There's a large amount of containment going on here. If you had that purple hose hooked up to a tank, it would pressurize the tank.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
that's fine.
A container through this whole thing. There's a container going on.
Okay, Paul. I agree.
You may have a pressurized gradient, so the pressure might be slightly less on the right-hand side, but there's still a containment.
Okay, Paul, I agree. Fine. You've removed the water. Now, there's no.
You still have pressure.
Okay,
you have pressure.
Okay, I agree. You have pressure. So there's no gradient, right?
Stop saying water.
Okay, I've stopped saying it already, Paul. I've stopped saying it. Now I'm asking you a new question. Is there a gradient in that container?
I just said I don't know.
You don't know. We don't know.
Hey, Spurs, I'll answer
you. He doesn't know if there's a gradient.
I'll answer you, Spurs. I'll answer you. Is there a sun, moon, and stars in that container? Is there a forest? Is there an ocean in that container? Is there
me and Paul don't know what's in that container.
Excuse me.
We don't know. We haven't looked, right, Paul? We don't know what's in that container.
Excuse
First, if you'll
me.
shut up for a second.
Okay.
Hang on, Jeff, man. Hang on a second.
Mhm.
Okay. Do you know pressure valves inside of systems can raise and lower the temperature? I'm sorry, not temperature. Well, that too. But it can actually raise and lower the pressure.
Okay.
Like if you had a valve on right there where the gauge is, a small tube, the pressure on the left side of this, on the left side of the gauge could be higher pressure than pressure on the right side of the gauge, depending on the size of the valve.
Mm-hmm.
So there could be a gradient in this system, depending on the valve.
Okay.
Okay. So you
Okay.
just have
So we've got a great controlled system. As I've said, you can control the temperature, the pressure in the controlled system. Okay.
I will say this. I think a gradient is depending upon the size of the container.
Okay.
I have a
Good.
question.
We're learning. We're doing science.
Presentation.
This is great. This is great. So now we don't need a gradient in the real world, right?
No, you do. You still
Oh,
need
you
pressure.
do. So there's a
Still need
gradient. So
contained
in
pressure.
that container, there's a gradient, Paul.
Spurs, get off the show so we can hear
Problems
John,
all
please.
around the board, right? Because if there's a gradient, there's a buildup of fluid, of liquids, of gas. You've got to remove that liquid. Then what? Where's the pressure?
Is there sun, moon, and stars in that container?
We don't know. Me and Paul have
Why don't you try it out, Spursky, this claim?
We don't know, do we,
Why don't you
Paul? We're
actually
done.
try it
We're
out? You
done.
make all
We don't
these
know
wild
what's inside that
claims about
container. We're done.
ridiculous situations, and
We're
you
done.
never actually
Are
tried
we?
anything out.
We don't know what's inside the container.
You don't know,
Whether
you
there's a
don't know,
gradient.
so you make wild
We don't know.
speculations, and then you don't actually test it out. It's just
Time for
you're going
Q&A.
nowhere, buddy.
No, we're done. Let's talk about something else. We're done. Paul, we
Oh,
can't see
thank
inside it. So we're
you.
done.
Thank you. Thank you. Dying to hear QE's presentation.
And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who tuned in on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. A massive thank you to all of today's debating panel for making this after show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!